Off the rails. Gordon was resting in a siding. "Wake up, Gordon," said his driver. "A special train's coming and we're to pull it." Gordon opened his eyes. "Is it coaches or trucks?" "Trucks," said his driver. "Trucks," said Gordon crossly. "Pah!" They lit Gordon's fire and oiled him ready for the run. The fire was sulky and wouldn't burn, but they couldn't wait, so Edward pushed him to the turntable to get him facing the right way. "I won't go," grumbled Gordon. Don't be silly, puffed Edward. Gordon tried hard, but he couldn't stop himself being moved. At last he was on the turntable. Edward was uncoupled and backed away, and Gordon's driver and fireman jumped down to turn him round. The movement had shaken Gordon's fire. It was now burning nicely and making steam. Gordon was cross and didn't care what he did. He waited till the table was halfway round. I'll show them, he hissed, and moved slowly forward. He only meant to go a little way, just far enough to jam the table and stop it turning, as he had done once before. But he couldn't stop himself, and slithering down the embankment, he settled in a ditch. "Oosh!" he hissed, as his wheels churned the mud. "Get me out! Get me out!" "Not a hope," said his driver and fireman. "You're stuck, you silly great engine. Don't you understand that?" They telephoned the Fat Controller. "So, Gordon didn't want to take the special and ran into a ditch," he answered from his office. "What's that you say? The special's waiting. Tell Edward to take it, please. And Gordon? Oh, leave him where he is. We haven't time to bother with him now." A family of toads croaked crossly at Gordon as he lay in the mud. On the other side of the ditch, some little boys were chattering. "Coo, doesn't he look silly? They'll never get him out." They began to sing. "Silly old Gordon fell in a ditch, fell in a ditch, fell in a ditch. Silly old Gordon fell in a ditch, all on a Monday morning." The school bell rang, and still singing, they chased down the road. "Shoo!" said Gordon, and blew away 3 tadpoles and an inquisitive newt. Gordon lay in the ditch all day. "Oh dear," he thought, "I shall never get out." But that evening they brought floodlights. Then with powerful jacks they lifted Gordon and made a road of sleepers under his wheels to keep him from the mud. Strong wire ropes were fastened to his back end, and James and Henry, pulling hard, at last managed to bring him to the rails. Late that night, Gordon crawled home a sadder and wiser engine. A few days later, Thomas was at the junction when Gordon shuffled in with some trucks. "Poof," remarked Thomas. "What a funny smell. Can you smell a smell?" "I can't smell a smell," said Annie and Clarabel. "A funny, musty sort of smell," said Thomas. "No one noticed it till you did," grunted Gordon. "It must be yours." "Annie, Clarabel, do you know what I think it is?" whispered Thomas loudly. "It's ditch water." Gordon snorted, but before he could answer, Thomas puffed quickly away. Annie and Clarabel could hardly believe their ears. "He's dreadfully rude. I feel quite ashamed. I feel quite ashamed. He's dreadfully rude," they twittered to each other. "You mustn't be rude. You make us ashamed," they kept telling Thomas, but Thomas didn't care a bit. That was funny, he chuckled. He felt very pleased with himself. Annie and Clarabel were deeply shocked. They had a great respect for Gordon the big engine. Thomas left the coaches at a station and went to a mine for some trucks. Long ago, miners digging for lead had made tunnels under the ground. Though strong enough to hold up trucks, their roofs could not bear the weight of engines. A large notice said, "Danger! Engines must not pass this board." Thomas had often been warned, but he didn't care. Silly old board, he thought. He had often tried to pass it, but had never succeeded. This morning he laughed as he puffed along. He had made a plan. He had to push empty trucks into one siding and pull out full ones from another. His driver stopped him, and the fireman went to turn the points. "Come on," waved the fireman, and they started. The driver leaned out of the cab to see where they were going. "Now," said Thomas to himself, and bumping the trucks fiercely, he jerked his driver off the footplate. "Hooray!" laughed Thomas, and he followed the trucks into the siding. "Stupid old board," said Thomas as he passed it. "There's no danger, there's no danger." His driver, unhurt, jumped up. "Look out!" he shouted. The fireman clambered into the cab. Thomas squealed crossly as his brakes were applied. "It's quite safe," he hissed. "Come back," yelled the driver. But before they could move, there was a rumbling and the rails quivered. The fireman jumped clear. As he did so, the ballast slipped away and the rails sagged and broke. "Fire and smoke," said Thomas. "I'm sunk." And he was. Thomas could just see out of the hole, but he couldn't move. "Oh dear," he said, "I am a silly engine."
"And a very naughty one too,"
said a voice behind him.
"I saw you."
"Please get me out. I won't be naughty again."
"I'm not so sure,"
replied the Fat Controller.
"We can't lift you out with a crane. The ground's not firm enough." Let me see. I wonder if Gordon could pull you out."
"Yes, sir," said Thomas nervously. He didn't want to meet Gordon just yet. "Down a mine, is he? Ho, ho, ho," laughed Gordon. "What a joke! What a joke!" he chortled, puffing to the rescue. "Poop, poop, little Thomas," he whistled. "We'll have you out in a couple of puffs." Strong cables were fastened between the two engines. "Poop, poop, poop."
"Are you ready? Heave!"
called the Fat Controller. But they didn't pull Thomas out in 2 puffs. Gordon was panting hard and nearly purple before he had dragged Thomas out of the hole and safely past the board. "I'm sorry I was cheeky," said Thomas. "That's all right, Thomas. You made me laugh. I like that." "I'm in disgrace," Gordon went on pathetically. "I feel very low." "I'm in disgrace too," said Thomas. "Why, so you are, Thomas. We're both in disgrace. Shall we form an alliance?" "An ally? What was it?" "An alliance, Thomas. United we stand, together we fall," said Gordon grandly. "You help me, and I help you. How about it?" "Right you are," said Thomas. "Good, that's settled," rumbled Gordon. And buffer to buffer, the Allies puffed home.